we're back with more Expect the Unexpected by Article Vulpix. Um, in the last chapter, I believe Ruby, brought the troublemakers who attacked Mangled. So that was the last chapter, and she punished them and had them apologize. So that's all that. But we're now on chapter 36. If you want to follow along with the chapter, link is in the description below as always. Now let's get started. Chapter 36. Hedy's turn. Hello, puppet. Hedy greeted coldly when she entered the room. Hedy, the puppet responded, climbing out of his box and closing the lid before smoothly jumping up to sit on top. Hedy stared at him with narrow eyes while she rolled up. The puppet forced himself to suppress a shudder. Even after Ruby's display, Hedy's coldness made him just a little uncomfortable. She reminded him of a frozen pond. Not that he had ever seen one up close, hard on the surface, but there was an unknown danger right underneath. Ruby won the other day, Hedy stated, leaning back in her chair while she spoke calmly, as if they were old friends discussing the weather. The puppet glanced towards the prize corner, or rather towards where he had hidden the miniature puppet after failing to untangle the impromptu noose from around its neck. Couldn't give children something like that after all. He let out a huff of air and looked back at the mechanic unconcerned. I'm well aware of this. Well, are you also well aware of just how awfully your little plan backfired on you? He asked. Her voice dripped barely restrained contempt. The toys no longer trust you. They doubt you. Mangled most of all, and everyone hates you. Puppet glared at her, but didn't say anything. I'm going to be very clear. He spoke softly. I am disgusted by you. I am disgusted by anyone who would selfishly hurt people, especially those close to them, just to get what they want, as if nothing else matters. Her voice lowered to an almost growl. I've seen monsters, Marinette. I have seen horrible, terrible things that only evil monsters could do. When I first started this job, I thought I would see the same thing. But I never saw monsters in the toys. Never. No matter how hard I looked. No matter how scared I was of them at first. Even after all they've done, all I saw were children who needed to grow up. Except for you. You were always dark enough inside to scare me. But afterwards, I ignored it, because the others trusted you. I'm never making that mistake again. You ever pull something like that again with anyone, then shredded cloth and a twisted endoskeleton will be the least of your problems. They stared at each other for a second. Do you think you're threatening, Miss Hedy? The puppets finally spoke with a sneer. Do you think you could make me fear you? You're not the first to come here with that intention, and I'll doubt you'll be the last, dear. I have seen fear from all sides, and you are not it, mechanic. He looked at him steadily. It's laughable, really. All your words are empty promises and shallow threats, when really you use words to hide something that's so glaringly obvious. The puppet snarled. You're weak. Why'd you come with us, huh? To keep humans from dying? And what have you done? Nothing. The Night Guard won our little game. For now, while you just sat idly by, you lack something that the Night Guard has. Something that I have. Conviction. You'll never be willing to do what it takes. Your threats mean nothing. He leaned forward slightly and growled. You've seen monsters? You think I'm a monster that you don't know the meaning of the word He was suddenly cut off as Hedy reached up and grabbed him by the cloth on his chest and yanked him down to her eye level. The puppet squirmed in surprise, but Hedy gripped him tightly. There are many differences between Ruby and me, and even more between the two of us, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I am not a reckless teenager, nor am I a psychopathic robot. What I am at this very moment is a very angry friend of someone you hurt. Badly. Both physically by herself and emotionally, along with her friends over the years, Hedy hissed. Do not test me. Don't you dare. You're lucky that no matter how much I want to rip your eyes out right now, I'm still willing to listen to your side. But this, right now, is the only chance I'm giving you. Tell me why you think your behavior over the years is acceptable. Why have so many people been hurt? You wouldn't understand, the puppet hissed, as he tried to pry himself out of her grasp. Don't give me that. Hedy shook him slightly. I am done being patient, waiting for you all to tell me on your own time. It's ridiculous. Too many people have been hurt because of this. The puppet laughed. Hold on, I got the word derisively and tried to scratch her, but Hedy caught his wrists. Ridiculous? You think my anger is ridiculous? What monsters could you have possibly seen? You don't know anything. Then tell me, Hedy snapped. At least it was her voice and not his neck. There was silence. It stretched on for so long that Hedy was about to get her tools and dismantle him right there. Finally, the puppet snarled. I made a promise. Hedy just narrowed her eyes and waited for him to continue. I promised that they would get justice. Who? Hedy asked. The puppet sneered. You really know nothing. The children. To Puppet's complete and utter confusion, he suddenly looked conflicted. He was expecting her to ask, what children? No one knew about them anymore, after all. The old management had made sure of it, paying off everyone from the employment and the media to the police and the family. But he remembered. The toys remembered. The others remembered. None of the humans did. His thoughts trailed off in a confused sputter as her grip on his cloth loosened and her eyes widened slightly. She blinked and glared at him. What makes you think that you could punish years of innocent night guards for something that one insane monster did 15 years ago? Healy's voice had dropped to a furious tremor. They've been gone for years, Puppet. They're never coming back. Killing more people sure as heck isn't going to help. He roughly pushed him away hard enough for him to fall against his box and turned her head away. Don't come near any of the toys again, she warned coldly. She turned her chair towards the door. Puppet stared at her until she was halfway there. I take it we've seen the same monster then, he said, testing her, but unable to remove the slight shakiness from his voice. Some things just can't be unseen, can they? She stopped rolling, her hands still gripping the wheel. After a second, she started moving again. You're wrong, you know. Revenge will help them, he said. They're gone, he said sternly. Are they? The puppet asked angrily. Why do you ask around? You're insane. And if you think your reasons make you better than the murderer, you're dead wrong, he said. With that, she was gone. Puppet blinked and leaned against his box for a moment before climbing back in, scowling after her. How dare she compare him to that? She couldn't be right. On her way back to the others, he furiously wiped tears from the corner of her eyes. She had meant to rail at Puppet like no tomorrow. Lots of cursing, maybe a few shattered masks and broken pieces of a half-wooden endoskeleton. She even knew where to find a wood chipper. Yet here she was leaving because she didn't want anyone, least of all the one person she hated the most at the moment, to see her cry. What was he talking about anyway? Stupid, she muttered, stopping her chair and resting her head in her hands. She knew what he said about her being weak wasn't true, logically. One person can't go through something like her life and survive if they were weak. Yet at the same time, what have I possibly done? She mumbled. She didn't help Ruby. She couldn't help her friends either. I haven't done anything. Even Mangle's back to where she started, she said out loud. You're kind of wrong there, Goldie's voice floated down to her. He jumped a little but groaned and didn't look up. How long have you been there? Surprised you didn't rip him apart in there, Goldie said, not answering the question. She really should have just left the mechanic, but something was telling her that she needed to say something. do something. He shrugged. I'll let Bangle have that honor. She moved to continue her way to the main room, but stopped when Goldie spoke again after a second. Speaking of, what you said, I don't think you understand how much you've helped the toys. I mean, I still don't like them, and they are still jerks, but Gold floated. I think that's supposed to be Goldie, but it says Gold. We'll go with Goldie. Goldie floated down just a little closer. You're good for them. I didn't notice it at first, but they are getting better. And it's definitely not just Ruby kicking their ego down a notch, though that helps. After your moment with Toy Bonnie yesterday, I get the feeling you've been doing that for a while. Thanks, he said, somewhat unconvinced. Goldie nodded hesitantly. I didn't eavesdrop, by the way, but I couldn't help but notice you were crying. Is there anything I can do? He glanced away, embarrassed. Okay, just... Goldie nodded. She didn't really trust the mechanic, but that was simply because of her job. Other than that, she knew what was probably bothering the young woman. He looked up at the yellow bear, studying her. How did you know who I am? No one else recognized me. Not even Puppet after working with him this long. Goldie looked surprised, then sheepish. I've always been good with faces, she mumbled. I've aged, he deadpanned. Plus, you used your last name when you were signing the contract, and the manager called you by it before you told him to just call you Hedy. You didn't tell anyone, Hedy pointed out. I was going to, but I wanted to know why you were here first. Then I figured you didn't want anyone to know who you were related to. Everyone still remembers him. Thank you, Hedy murmured quietly after a moment. It's really not my place, but I have to ask. Why don't you want anyone to know? He sighed. Should she tell her? At first, I never mentioned it because it didn't matter. I was just taking a job. I just wanted to know how much the stories were true. Then, after I got to know the toys, I didn't want them looking at me differently. They would if they knew. That simple? Goldie asked with a slight scoff. He nodded. Goldie glanced towards the main room where the faint sounds of a rising argument could be heard. We should go. He gestured for her to lead the way, but suddenly stopped. Goldie? Hmm? There's something that's been bothering me. He tried starting again. The other day, when I stayed in the main room with you all, Freddie mentioned something that got me thinking. I still don't understand. You didn't want to, but you had to? You were forced to? I mean, then the puppet said something that... He sighed and quit her rambling. She looked apologetically at Goldie. I'm sorry, just thinking out loud. Never mind. Goldie stared at the ground for a minute, and Hedy was afraid she had made the suit angry. Goldie wrung her hands as she looked up and opened her mouth. Then Goldie changed her mind and shook her head. It's okay. No problem. Her voice was soft and forced. She teleported away into the room. He resisted the urge to yank her hair out. What the heck was going on? The originals obviously didn't want to hurt night guards like the toys did. Yet they did. For 15 years. No one was telling her anything, and she had a feeling, based on the way Ruby acted, that she was the only one out of the loop. She at least knew why Puppet had these convictions, though it still didn't make much sense. Too many secrets. Huh. As if she could talk. She moved to follow Hedy, but should have urged suddenly. She glanced around and she absentmindedly zipped up her jacket. Looked like she had a heating system to check out later. As she moved into the room, a blonde ghost cracked a rare smile behind her. Of course, she walked into a massive argument that Ruby probably had a hand in starting. As she wheeled through the doorway, Ruby slammed her bat down on Toby's head. You mess with my bunny buddy again, I'll tear you to pieces, she yelled, clearly still under the effects of the pain medication. Although she would also do that on a normal day too. Molly snickered as Freddie steered her away from the angry toys. Come on, Ruby, what happened to resting? He asked her, sighing in desperation. He's getting on my last nerve, Freddy, she growled. Hedy rested her chin in her hand, watching the scene. Things were probably going to be interesting from now on. And that's the end of chapter 46. It looks like Corona Pax helped out with Hedy, who I believe is her character. So, yeah. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this chapter. If you did, leave a like. Go leave a review. This is their story. I didn't write anything of this. I own nothing. I'm just reading it and sharing it. Like, there's a link. You can click it. You can go leave a review. You don't need an account. It just means the author cannot respond back to you. That is all. So go leave a review. Go on. This is the end now. It's fine. Go, go, go. Although do come back if you do. I want to hear about it too. But other than that, shoo. Go leave a review. Show the love. Go on. Shoo. It's the end of the video. Anyway, I'll see you guys next Friday with a new video. Bye!